So I'll call the regular meeting of the East Lyme Board of Selectmen to order. Today is February 17th. It's roughly just after 7:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. We've already said the Pledge of Allegiance. There are additional agenda and consent items. I'd like to add revenue budget, if you will, to the budget review process. So under 2D, after Public Works, if you just write in revenue, and if I could get a motion to
So
add
moved.
that.
Second.
And could we vote on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to add revenue onto our agenda. And I don't think I need to adjust the agenda under Joe's building department. He's also going to give us the vehicle acquisition capital improvement plan, capital plan for vehicle acquisition, because you won't be here when it's discussed, and he wanted to put that in front of you, and you might be able to review it, ask a question or two, but we will actually do the budget review part of the capital plan at a future meeting. So we're not going to necessarily need to adjust that, but I want to kind of make mention of that. I also want to adjust the agenda so we can get our department heads in and out of here and then do our business. So if you all don't mind, we'll move the entire 2D up before 2A.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll have all the departments. I apologize, I should have kind of reviewed that and thought this one out. But do I have everyone's consent on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any problems with that? So we're going to move the agenda around a little bit because we can get their work out of the way. We can continue with ours. So I don't think there's any additional agenda or consent items. So delegations, I see no one from the public present. So approval of the minutes of special meeting of September 3rd, 2016. February 3rd, 2016.
Okay, move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of February 3rd, 2016.
Second.
Any comments, corrections? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? And the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of February 17th, 2016 in the amount of $1,125.33.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Victoria is on our board tonight, giving us our audio and visual out there. So if you notice that the quality of the filming is much better during the second half of our meeting, it's because Victoria's here, our student intern, bailing us out. So thank you for coming and putting in your time this evening.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is we've already moved 2D into this position. So the budget review process, the building department. So go back to our budget books. And what department number are we looking at?
317.
317.
No, building is 104.
Oh, building department. I was looking at Public Works. I'm sorry.
104.
That was a test,
I'm
Anna, to see
sorry.
if you were paying attention.
I see, because we're putting Joe up first. That's you, Joe, right? 104. Mr. Smith. I wasn't paying attention here. So, Mr. Smith, we've been having people come up to the table so you can be nice and casual and convenient. We can eyeball you.
Evening.
How are you? So, Mr. Smith is our Chief Building Officer. Been in town for how long, sir?
Pardon?
How long have you been doing the work here?
16 and a half years.
Incredible, what the town's gone through in that period of time.
Yep.
Thank you for your service. Tell us very shortly, very short synopsis of your budget.
Really, the only change is a proposed increase in what's titled a building official line, the 212 line. I always refer to that as the assistant building official. It would be, right now, it's those duties are done by 3 part-time individuals, and I'm always looking to have that done by 1, preferably full-time individual. This is represents 30 hours of work per week, which is about what I'm getting from the 3 individuals right now, but obviously it would be done by 1 person.
So by moving, the paper, when they announced the budget, said that we were adding a full-timer on, but really we're adding 2 hours onto the schedule, I think, because right now you're budgeted, I think, for about 28 hours, give or take. But we'll go to 30 hours. The difference is the benefit package of having a full-timer on, but the benefit is enormous in the form of management and control and working in tandem with one person.
Correct.
Right.
The, what was approved for this year was to have one person work 28 hours. I've been having 3 people, and we've divided up the money a little differently. Some get paid a little less, so I was able to get a few more hours.
Okay,
But
right.
we've continued with the unfortunate inconsistency of having 3 people. One person works 1 day a week, another person works 2 afternoons. Right now, this time of year, we've been able to not have them come in as often, which is typical of February. But we needed the hours and more when we're very busy.
Indeed. Are there any questions?
Joe, the part-time person, is that going to be consistently 30 hours a week, or is it going to be, when you have the more demand, maybe 40 hours that week?
No, not all that's approved is the 30 hours. If we got busier and I needed somebody to work all 5 days, I would need to return and ask for more money.
Do you anticipate that? Because you said February is kind of light. Do you have busy times?
Yes, we do, and the busy times come when the weather gets a little better and when
Okay.
builders start being a little more active, and then it continues right through the holidays typically. Again, weather has a bit to do with it. And then, of course, what projects are being done, and that's always something that's we have to carefully try to forecast. I'm looking typically at what the zoning official is doing, the people that he's meeting with, to determine what may be coming down in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
Okay, so if we have someone that's 30 hours now,
Mhm.
do you lose a little bit of flexibility to adjust hours here and there? Is that going to affect, you said if you needed more staff, for example, for busy time, you would have to come back?
Yeah, the 30 hours is not taking away any flexibility. In fact, I think it would add consistency, which is
I agree with
what
that.
we really
Yeah,
need.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm getting, with the different hourly rate, I'm getting about 30 hours or so when I need it.
Okay. Now, the last time you were here, you mentioned that you were trying to hire someone for the 28, but you were having a hard time. Do you anticipate this is going to be easier with 30-hour with benefits?
There will be more people that are interested in the position.
Mm-hmm.
I do have people interested in as it stands now, but obviously the more attractive the position is, the more people would apply for it.
Okay. Second question is, in the original budget request, there was a request to eliminate the administrating assistant position. Is that correct?
We were looking at flexible ways of getting money to fund a full-time position and provide more bodies in the office, more hours, so that we would have flexibility to cover the office itself when people are out.
So you weren't trying to eliminate it, you wanted to bring it up to a full-time position, is that?
No, I
So
was
we have one
looking
full-time,
to,
we have one part-time now.
and that's the way this is presented here.
Okay. But the original one, there was the elimination of a part-time administrative assistant, it was restored. I was
Yeah.
trying to make sense of that.
Well, it was just an idea more than an actual budget. It was an idea of, hey, if we go down to just an administrative assistant instead of 1.5, could then I get my full timer? And that doesn't work, in my opinion, as a manager, because there's a certain customer service level that has to be maintained down there, and with one administrative assistant, and that person's out how many sick days a year, how many vacation days a year, comp days a year, it adds up to nobody's working the counter, and one of the ideas was that full timer, that second full timer, or Joe could work the counter during those
The
those times.
Assistant building official.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but then that's not really solving the problem
No,
of
no.
having an inspector out on the street. Now we have chief building officials working the counter where an administrative assistant could be doing it. I really like the fact that we have 1.5 down there right now. It gives us some flexibility. I think it's important right now. I don't think we should be taking away from the customer service part of that office, which has 3 different departments that can get, some activity. There's always someone down there when I'm down there. So it was an idea that was floated. I shunned that idea and just said, you know what, your revenues are way up in the building permit side of things. And you're going to see this when you get to revenue budgets. When we start going line by line in the revenues, you're going to see the level of activity that has ticked up in the building permits. It's a revenue generator. It doesn't mean he gets all his money back and he can spend it the way he wants, but it does go into the general fund. But there is a lot of activity down in the building department. We need to fund that correctly. We need to staff that correctly. This is the plan.
And I agree. I just was
Yes.
concerned because I'm very familiar with your department.
Yes,
I know
of course you are.
this admin clerical also covers zoning and planning and everything. So
Right.
Right.
I would actually anticipate possibly in the future going the other way because
Indeed.
quite frankly, we don't having you answer the phones or having Bill answer the phones takes away from your job.
Right. Well, when we write our budget, we're always given the goal of accomplishing what we want without spending any more money. So it was a way of spending the money differently.
Okay.
So maybe that narrative that we inserted was a little too honest, that, we asked all the departments to come in with a 0 budget, with a negative 5% budget and all that. And, frankly, Joe was just being creative more than, this is the way of the future. He was sacrificing, if anything.
Do you think with 1.5 it's sufficient at this point for coverage?
If when we all work together, we can cover the office. There's the occasional time when everybody's off doing something. Somebody's on vacation, another person calls in sick. Or a good example would have been Friday a week ago or so, where it snowed and I was all alone. Some people had the day previously for vacation or other reasons, and so I was there for from the whole time by myself. But that's on occasion, it would be good to have. We've had in the past. This goes back quite some time. A person who was available to come to fill in wherever they could around the town hall. I think a lot of us would love to see that again,
I
but of
agree.
course we got to be able to pay for that too.
Is that a contractual issue that limits that too?
I think it's a matter of coming up with enough money to hire more people. Really.
It's a little bit, and we can go off track here, but it's a little bit of just how we're set up too.
Right. No,
If
exactly.
we had a reception and a pool of administrators and then pods of different departments off of that, we could work it a lot different and probably a lot more efficient. But across the hall we have building and zoning and planning, and then across the hall from that we have Joe and the water department and engineering, and they can't cover each other's counter.
Right.
The clerks can't be, town clerk can't be covering the building department's counter. So you have a snow day with people on vacation and sick, and you try to deliver some level of customer service because the citizen's going to come in or the developer's going to come in and they need an answer. They expect you to be open, but things happen, and it's kind of the cost of doing business too. And
Yeah, if you work together, you handle it.
small businesses suffered that day too. It's just we throw your hands up and say, "Well, we're going to do it better tomorrow."
Okay. Thanks.
Was Hardy anything?
What is the benefit package for a 30-hour employee?
Roughly 18,000 a year.
The health insurance.
And is that figured, that's not figured in this line?
In Department 114.
So can you give me that number again?
It's
Roughly.
about 18,000.
About 18,000.
And I assume that with the 3 part-timers, we were not paying any benefits.
Correct.
Okay, so that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from anyone?
No, I'm good.
It's a
I'm good.
relatively simple budget, right?
Good.
Okay. Joe, thank you,
You're
and
welcome.
thank you for your honesty and your service to the town and your abilities to do so much with so little. Thank you.
418.
This is the Commission on Aging. 418?
418.
Yep.
418.
Get the numbers put on
You're a
there.
good deputy, Kevin. Kathy Wilson, you've been at that helm for how long?
Well, as you explained to me recently,
Don't.
I'm creating a legacy. So a little pressure on that. Since 1994.
1990. Now, let's do the math here.
Don't make me
That's
add
20.
or subtract in my
so-
head.
So 1994 to 2006 years, and then we're in 2006, so it's 22 years.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Red. Mrs. Wilson,
Yes, Mr. Nickerson.
you have a very complex department with a lot of moving parts, and as we've heard on this commission, this Board of Selectmen, that the demographics of those 65 and above will increase 20% in the next 10 to 15 years in this town. Straightforward in this town, not in the country, not in the state, not in the region, right here. So more and more pressure will be put on your department to deliver services. And just like the library, more is expected, more services are expected. I went in there and you're given lessons on how to use an iPad the other day. I was like kind of amazed. That wasn't happening just years ago, maybe even months ago. So I know you have a new program director.
Yes.
She's fantastic. And why don't you go over some highlights of your budget, and then we can kind of ask some curious questions.
Well, let me back up a little bit. You mentioned Kristen. So this budget year, the budget year we're in, we were able to hire a program coordinator, Kristen Karamanica. She started in October. And since she's been here, we've instituted 11 new programs, of which the majority of them, 10 new programs. I included my Chinese New Year in there. 10 new programs, of which the majority of them are either at no cost to the town or really minimal cost. For example, we started an adult coloring class. It's sort of the new rage right at the moment, but we went to the Five and Below store and got some colored pencils and some coloring books, and people love this class. I think we started with like 3 or 4, then it went to 6, 8. Last week we had about 12 people in there. We turned the music on to nice, soothing music. They're in there just chatting, very supportive of each other, and just coloring. It's just so cool. So my point is that Kristen started in October, so you give her a month to sort of get her feet wet, and has been programming the HELL out of the senior center. Our rooms are all being utilized. We are sharing the activity room with the Park and Rec Department, the library in the summertime, the youth center, the Olive and Dolly room. We're in there sharing with Park and Rec and the youth center and the library. We're also now in the youth center using space down there, particularly during the day when the kids aren't there. So we really have put together a wide range of programs, and Kristen has been very good about bringing programs in that aren't very costly. And one of the things that she's been able to do that I'd never really had the time to do is to reach out to our community, to our local businesses and to our local healthcare providers, and bringing them in. We have a health and wellness series starting. We're going to have a lunch and learn series starting. So all this stuff that really doesn't cost a lot but brings people in, gets connections being made. So Kristen has really, in the few short months that she's been with us, really started programming a lot. Also, just before we delve into my budget, I just wanted to remind everybody regarding the demographics. So 2011 is when the 65-year-olds, the baby boomers started turning 65. So that was about 5 years ago. So now they're 70. So now we're starting to see some of the upticks from people retiring that huge cohort and now coming to the senior center. So one of the things I just wanted to mention to you, in 2011, 2012, so about 5 years ago, our average number of monthly riders was about 261. Last fiscal year was at 279, so monthly riders. Right now, currently, we're at 317. We are driving, as I have told Mark 100 times now, we're just driving. It's incredible, the increase in the driving. The requests that are coming through, whether they're medical, whether they're coming to the senior center because of the increased programming, whether they're just trying to get to different places in the town. It's just been an incredible uptick. Every day, we just, like, how are we going to do this? And we try to figure out and rearrange things. But so just wanted to mention that to you, that we're really seeing the pressure on transportation. We are seeing an uptick in programming. Some of that we can control. If we don't program as much, we won't have as many people come in. That's sort of really against my philosophy, but that is something that we can control. So we are seeing, right now, we're sort of targeting, along with what our program attendance was last year, although I think that come April, May, June, once Kristen has been there now a few more months, weather really starts to get nice again, I think we're going to really see an uptick in that as well. So, going to my budget now, one of the things that you'll see an increase in is I am looking for some additional driving hours. I currently have a full-time driver at 35 hours a week. That is a benefited position. And then I have a part-time driver that does up to 19 and a half hours. What I'd like to do is get my full-time driver into a 37 and a half hour position, because the pressure of getting in at 4 o'clock is really, on some days, we can't do it. We can't get back into the bus parked in the parking lot and the driver back in and the keys turned over at 4 o'clock. And trying to say, well, come in late one day, or we're just getting too much pressure that we can't hit that. The additional thing is I'm looking for some 4 hours weekly to help us make the transportation requests. So it wouldn't be the 19 and a half driver going an additional 4 hours. It would just be having an additional 4 hours, because I do have 2 on-call drivers that are very helpful to us, so that they are available to come in. For example, we had our Chinese New Year last Friday. I had 2 drivers in essentially from 8:30 to 4, and they were busy the entire day because we had people coming in. We had staggered programs. It was crazy. Anyways, so it just was, that's really where we're seeing the pressure in terms of staffing, is needing some additional driving hours to help meet the needs. So that's where you're going to see an increase in my budget. The other piece of that is I'm looking for transportation software that will help manage some of this stuff. Right now, we're doing it very old school. Somebody calls in, we have a notebook, we write down, the appointments, where they're going, what time. We don't always remember if the person's a wheelchair or not, or if they're riding with an aid or not, or where is that doctor's office again? So then, you're fiddling around looking for some of that stuff. If you have transportation software, that's all in there. Once it gets entered, then it's always there. And also it'll give the drivers information, like this person travels with a walker, this person travels with a wheelchair, an aid, blah, blah, blah. So there is transportation software in there that I'm looking, that I would purchase out of my Powerhouse account, but then the maintenance would be part of my operating expense.
What Mrs. Wilson and I have discussed many times, as you can see, her level of anxiety is rising as we talk about the success of your department and what's going on over there.
Well, when you said legacy to me, Mark, that made me crazy. So
no, it's always a compliment.
But it's like the pressure's on now.
The new hat I'm going to get you is the Choo Choo Charlie hat, because you're now a transportation department. You are a product of your success, and with Kristen's, I guess we didn't expect we weren't thinking out. It would be great to have a program director, someone with experience, someone to come in and create new programming and look at what Kristen's done, and assisted you. And then all of a sudden, there goes the transportation, because now people want to be more and more involved with this senior, with the social thing that's going on down there. Wonderful. Wonderful, but the headaches are all coming from the transportation side of things. So we need to address that in the coming years.
And the other piece of that is, while the over 65 population is increasing rapidly, it's the 85 plus that's really exploding. And I mean, just anecdotally, I can look back over the past 2 months and see the new people coming in, and they are 90 plus. They're not, they're not the 70-year-olds looking for transportation. They're the 90-year-olds looking for transportation, and that population is really expanding.
Yeah. Okay. So items on your budget then. Anything you want to highlight before I let loose the selectmen?
No, I think that was everything.
I think it's pretty crystal clear. Why don't we just open up for discussion? Mrs. Hardy, we'll start with you. Are there any questions?
No, I don't have any
Yeah,
questions.
I have no questions either.
Extremely straightforward. Mrs. Cheeseman?
No, I don't. I think it's pretty clear where your needs are.
And Mr. Cunningham?
The only observation I have, your, on line 201, your telephone internet, that went up 13%?
That may change because
Is that Frontier?
is that AT&T in it?
I don't
Frontier.
think they
Frontier.
exist anymore, so it's Frontier.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I have typically under budgeted for that. I've always said, well, they're going to go up a little bit, and then I'm always
Scrambling.
bothering
Yeah. We're always moving
in
money.
May, going, can I transfer some money, please? So I tried not to underestimate that this time.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to, it looks like, I saw Frontier come up in an earlier budget, and I just see what's going on. Okay, thank you.
You know, Mr. Cunningham, the first time I looked through the budgets of my first year, I focused on the telephone every time too, because some budgets would go up
Yeah.
this much and some would go up, and everyone's using the same phone system. I concur. I mean, it's hard to make sense of it, and slowly all these buildings are being moved over to the VoIP systems and the fiber optic systems, and we'll all be on the same system and have a handle on it. But you'll see that in other departments in that building have various different percentages too. So it's hard to keep track of. Mr. Salerno.
Following on that, at some point when we get all these new systems, are we gonna be able to pull that out of these individual budgets and have this part of the building maintenance, so that's maintained under one budget?
It's a good question. That if it's because you aren't out there buying your own phone system.
That is correct. Well,
know,
we
you
bought the
didn't.
phone system, the community center did, but yeah, the
All
phone
the
bill,
departments
right,
in the phone,
yes.
right.
That's all the
right.
community center, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, we all use the same
Right,
phone
so
system.
it seems like a headache that you have to manage those costs when maybe we could put it under one